President Biden and former President Trump faced off in their first debate, and some are now saying possibly the only debate ahead of the November general election. This morning, we're looking back at some of the takeaways of last night's showdown. Brian Brox, a pollster and the director of U.S. Public Policy at Tulane University, is joining us this morning with more on that. And Democrats are wringing their hands today because I think they were shocked at the performance they saw last night. And Republicans probably saying, Trump's got a real chance.
Well, Trump had a real chance even going into this.
Before, yes.
He was ahead in several polls, polling well in many of the battleground states, but the performance last night surely showed a contrast between one candidate who was very clearly prepared with his talking points and the other candidate who struggled at times.
And the one thing because the Biden camp did ask for this debate, they wanted it. They wanted to show the American public, like at the State of the Union, that Joe Biden is cognizant, he's there, he's not a feeble old man. He looked anything but cognitive last night.
Yeah, I mean, the thought was that President Biden would prepare for this and that former President Trump would be caught up in legal events. And that's why the Biden campaign wanted to have this so soon. But when you set that expectation, you have to deliver. And President Biden certainly was not on his A game last night.
And if you're on social media last night, I mean, the people were all over the place. The one tweet that I saw that stuck with me is this is excruciating.
Last night was not a night where undecided voters or independents got a lot of substance on policy. Okay, last night was very much about style over substance. So just in general, the country didn't really learn a lot about what they might do in a future four-year presidential term. What they did get to see is extreme differences in the style and abilities of these to talk on camera. So it was sometimes hard to watch for someone who cares deeply about public policy.
And what a lot of people were saying, aside from Mr. Biden's performance, that Donald Trump said a lot of things that were just not true, and Biden did not take those things and dispute them. Yeah,
there's a lot of interest these days in fact-checking and trying to make sure that we get useful information as opposed to misinformation. The moderators of the debate chose not to do that. That was part of the rules that they established. So it's the other candidate's job to kind of check the other one on false claims, and Biden didn't take that opportunity.
And a lot of times a question was asked and they wandered off onto some of the things. Either Dana Bash or Jake Tapper said, you have like 40 seconds left. You want to say more and answer the actual question.
Yeah, this is something that I think both candidates struggled with, which was answering the questions. Both of them wanted to return to talking points, even to the point of talking about something in a completely different field than what was the asked question. So former President Trump did a better job of pivoting to his talking points. It sounded like a modified version of one of his normal rally speeches. President Biden had his talking points. You could tell he was trying to get out the information that he had been prepared with. It just wasn't as effective.
And both of them are older men, but Biden looked old. Trump did not look old last night.
Yeah, as a political scientist, you would like voters to decide based on the issues, but clearly appearances matter. And whatever you think about what he said, President Trump was very confident and spoke very clearly. President Biden less so. And so many voters who aren't necessarily thinking about the platforms see that difference.
I'm not sure. Clearly, he had so many word sandwiches, and it'll go this way and this way and this way, and things you couldn't fact check immediately because there were so many things that were said that, wait, is that true? But he did look lively and he did look spry.
I think if somebody just read the transcript from that debate, they would have a much different impression than those of us who actually watched it on television and saw their demeanor, saw how they responded, their verbal and their facial cues. It was a different debate to watch than it would be to read.
There is talk that maybe some Democrats will go to the president and say, maybe you should step aside. Could that ever happen?
Well, it could happen. The key thing to think about here, though, is that presidential nominees are selected by voters.
Right.
Primary voters in the Democratic Party have selected President Biden, so it would ultimately be up to him to decline the nomination. If that's going to happen, political science would suggest it happens sooner rather than later, so that a new nominee and a new team could be put in place to kind of continue the fall campaign.
Well, Democrats are hoping it was just a bad night and not a sign of things to come. President Biden and former President Trump have both agreed to one more debate, which is set for September the 10th, but there is a lot of talk these days that that may not happen.